Hello there, and welcome to a place where time moves differently. I'm Charles, and tonight I invite you to walk with me through something truly extraordinary. We're about to step into a world painted in the softest shades of spring, where cherry blossoms drift like whispered secrets, and the air itself seems to glow with gentle pink light. This isn't just any forest. This is a sanctuary where tranquility lives in every branch, every petal, every breath of wind that stirs the canopy above. Tonight, we'll wander together through pathways carpeted in fallen blooms, beneath trees that have been perfecting their art of peaceful beauty for decades, perhaps centuries. If these quiet explorations help you find a moment of calm in your day, or simply give you a gentle way to drift towards sleep, I hope you'll consider sharing this journey with others who might need the same peaceful escape. Sometimes the most profound discoveries happen when we slow down and really see what's been waiting for us all along. But for now, let the outside world fade away. Let your breathing settle into the rhythm of our footsteps on the soft forest floor. We're about to discover why some places seem designed not just for beauty, but for healing the soul itself. The first thing you notice when entering a pink spring forest is how the light changes. Ordinary sunlight, the kind that illuminates parking lots and office buildings, transforms the moment it touches these blossoming branches. It becomes something softer, something that seems to understand the delicate nature of what it's illuminating. Above us, thousands of cherry blossoms create a living ceiling, each flower no bigger than a child's fingernail. Yet together, they form something magnificent. The petals are translucent, allowing light to filter through in the most gentle way imaginable. It's as if nature has hung countless tiny lampshades throughout the forest, each one designed to create the perfect atmosphere for rest and reflection. The pink varies from tree to tree, some so pale they're almost white, others deeper, like the inside of a seashell. No two trees bloom in exactly the same shade, creating a subtle symphony of color that changes as we move through the forest. Here, a cluster of pale rose. There, blooms the color of dawn clouds. Each tree has found its own way to interpret spring. Beneath our feet, the ground tells its own story. Yesterday's petals have created a natural carpet, soft and yielding with each step. They don't crunch like autumn leaves. Instead, they whisper, a gentle sound that seems to encourage slower movement, more mindful walking. The petals are still supple, still holding traces of their time on the branch, and they release the faintest fragrance as we disturb them. This fragrance is impossible to describe completely. It's not the heavy sweetness of roses or the sharp brightness of jasmine. It's something lighter, cleaner, like the scent of rain mixed with honey, or perhaps the smell of happiness itself. It drifts around us as we walk, never overwhelming, always subtle, always there when we pause to notice. The trees themselves seem to breathe in this place. Their branches move with a gentleness that suggests they know they're carrying something precious. When the breeze stirs the canopy, petals don't fall harshly. They drift, taking their time, spinning slowly through the air like tiny dancers who know their performance might be their last. Some petals land on our shoulders as we walk, and we leave them there, temporary decorations that connect us to this blooming world. Others settle in our hair or on the path ahead, creating small pink pools that catch our attention and draw our eyes to details we might otherwise miss. The silence here is different from other silences. It's not the empty quiet of a closed room or the hollow stillness of a winter landscape. This is a full silence, rich with the presence of growing things. You can almost hear the trees blooming, the quiet work of life expressing itself in the most beautiful way possible. Occasionally, a bird calls from somewhere in the pink canopy. The sound seems to belong here completely, as if the trees themselves are singing. These aren't the harsh cries of crows or the chatter of sparrows. They're gentle notes, musical phrases that add to the forest's peaceful atmosphere without disturbing it. As we move deeper into this pink sanctuary, the world beyond begins to feel distant, almost imaginary. The concerns that seemed so urgent an hour ago start to dissolve like morning mist. Here, there's only the soft crunch of petals underfoot, the gentle play of filtered light, and the quiet presence of trees that have been practicing the art of peaceful existence for longer than we can imagine. The path curves ahead of us, disappearing around a bend where the trees grow more densely. We can't see what waits beyond that curve, but it doesn't matter. In this place, the journey itself is the destination. Each step brings its own small revelations, its own moments of quiet wonder. Here, a single petal clings to a spider's web, turning the invisible strand into a work of art. There, sunlight finds a gap in the canopy and creates a small spotlight on the forest floor, illuminating a patch of moss so green it seems to glow from within. These are the kinds of discoveries that happen when we move slowly enough to notice them. The air temperature in this forest feels perfect, neither warm nor cool, but exactly right for human comfort. It's as if the trees have found a way to moderate the climate through their very presence, creating a microenvironment designed for contemplation and rest. Even the humidity seems ideal, carrying just enough moisture to keep the fragrances alive without feeling heavy or oppressive. We pause beside a particularly magnificent tree, its trunk thick with age and wisdom, its branches reaching in every direction like arms offering an embrace. This tree has seen countless springs, has bloomed and shed its petals in this same rhythm for decades. Standing beside it, we become part of a tradition that stretches back through time, connected to every person who has ever paused beneath blossoming branches and felt their spirit lift. The bark of these trees is smooth and dark, providing a perfect contrast to the delicate pink of the flowers. Running our fingers along the trunk, we can feel the subtle texture, the slight variations that tell the story of seasons weathered, storms survived, years of patient growth. This is strength disguised as gentleness, resilience wrapped in beauty. Looking up through the canopy, we see patches of blue sky playing hide and seek between the branches. The sky seems bluer here, more vivid, as if the pink blossoms have enhanced its color by contrast. Small clouds drift across our view, their white forms providing another layer to this natural ceiling of beauty. The forest floor around us is dotted with other signs of spring. Small wildflowers push through the carpet of fallen petals, their faces turned toward the filtered light. They're humble compared to the magnificent display above, but they add their own quiet charm to the scene. Purple violets, white wood anemones, the fresh green of new ferns unfurling their fronds like nature's own calligraphy. A gentle breeze picks up, and suddenly the air is full of dancing petals. They swirl around us in slow motion, creating a moment so beautiful it feels almost ceremonial. Some settle on the path ahead, others continue their dance, spinning and floating until they find their resting places among the roots and moss. This is why we come to places like this, not for the destination or the achievement, but for moments like these, when beauty overwhelms us so completely that everything else falls away. In this shower of pink petals, surrounded by the quiet strength of ancient trees, we remember what it feels like to be fully present, fully alive to the wonder that exists in the world when we take time to notice it. The path continues ahead, winding deeper into this pink paradise. Each turn reveals new arrangements of light and shadow, new combinations of color and texture. The trees seem to have positioned themselves with an artist's eye, creating natural compositions that please the soul without trying too hard to impress. We walk on, our footsteps soft on the petal-strewn path, our breathing synchronized with the gentle rhythm of this peaceful place. There's no hurry here, no pressure to arrive anywhere quickly. The forest teaches us the value of moving slowly, of savoring each moment instead of rushing toward the next one. As we continue our gentle journey, the forest begins to reveal some of its deeper secrets. The trees here grow closer together, their branches intertwining overhead to create a more intimate space, a natural cathedral where whispers seem appropriate and loud voices feel out of place. The pink canopy grows thicker, filtering the sunlight into an even softer glow that seems to emanate from the very air around us. Each tree in this deeper section tells its own story through the way it holds its blossoms. Some branches droop gracefully under the weight of their flowers, creating natural archways that frame our path. Others reach upward, their pink clouds seeming to lift our eyes and spirits toward the sky. The variety is endless, yet somehow every tree feels perfectly placed, as if this forest designed itself with the patience of centuries. The sound of our footsteps changes as we move through different patches of the forest floor. Here, where fewer petals have fallen, the earth feels firmer beneath our feet. There, where a massive tree has been particularly generous with its blooms, we sink slightly into a thick carpet of pink that cushions every step like nature's own meditation mat. The sensation is remarkably soothing, encouraging us to slow our pace even further. Water begins to make its presence known in this deeper part of the forest. First, it's just the faint sound of movement somewhere ahead, so subtle we might mistake it for wind in the leaves. But as we continue forward, the gentle murmur grows clearer, more distinct. Water is flowing somewhere nearby, adding its voice to the forest's quiet symphony. The moisture in the air increases almost imperceptibly, bringing with it enhanced fragrances and a feeling of freshness that makes each breath feel cleansing. This is the kind of air that seems to wash the inside of your lungs, carrying away the staleness of indoor spaces and replacing it with something pure and life-giving. Around another gentle curve, we discover the source of the sound. A small stream winds its way through the forest, its water so clear we can see every pebble on the bottom, every grain of sand that shifts with the gentle current. The water moves without hurry, following the natural contours of the land with the same peaceful patience that characterizes everything else in this place. Cherry blossom petals float on the water's surface like tiny pink boats, each one following the stream's unhurried journey towards some distant destination. They spin slowly in small eddies, gather in quiet pools, then continue on their way. Watching them, we're reminded that even in letting go, there can be grace and beauty. The trees that grow beside this stream seem especially blessed. Their roots have access to the constant moisture, and their branches stretch across the water, creating natural bridges of pink blossoms. When petals fall from these overhanging branches, they land on the water with the softest touch, barely disturbing the surface before beginning their gentle voyage downstream. A fallen log spans the narrowest part of the stream, its weathered surface worn smooth by countless seasons. Moss has claimed portions of it, creating soft green cushions that invite us to sit and rest. From this vantage point, we can watch the water flow beneath us while the pink canopy frames the scene above. It's a perfect spot for contemplation, for letting our minds settle into the same unhurried rhythm as the stream. The reflection in the water doubles the beauty around us. Pink blossoms mirror themselves in the dark surface, creating a second forest that shimmers and wavers with each tiny ripple. When a petal touches the water, it sends concentric circles spreading outward, momentarily blurring the reflection before the surface settles back into stillness. Fish move in the deeper pools of the stream, their forms barely visible as shadows that glide through the reflected sky and blossoms. They seem as peaceful as everything else here, moving without urgency, perfectly adapted to this tranquil environment. Their presence adds another layer of life to this already vibrant ecosystem. The banks of the stream are soft with moss and dotted with small stones worn round by the water's patient work. Ferns grow in the moist soil, their fronds unfurling in perfect spirals that echo the mathematical beauty found throughout nature. Everything here speaks of cycles, of growth and renewal, of the endless patience that allows beauty to develop slowly and completely. Continuing along the stream's edge, we notice how the water has shaped not just the banks, but the entire character of this part of the forest. The trees here stand differently, their trunks often leaning slightly toward the water, as if drawn by its life-giving presence. Their roots, visible in some places, reach toward the stream like fingers seeking sustenance. The interplay between water and blossoms creates constantly changing scenes of beauty. Sometimes the stream widens into small pools where hundreds of petals gather, creating floating gardens of pink. Other times, it narrows and quickens slightly, carrying petals swiftly around bends and out of sight, reminding us of time's passage, even in this timeless place. A wooden bridge appears ahead. So weathered and moss-covered, it seems to have grown from the forest floor itself. Its railings are worn smooth by countless hands, and its boards sag slightly under the weight of years, creating a gentle curve that adds to its charm. This bridge isn't just a way to cross the stream, it's an invitation to pause in the middle of the flowing water and see the forest from a new perspective. Standing on the bridge, we're surrounded by the gentle sound of water moving beneath our feet and the soft whisper of wind through the pink canopy above. Petals drift past us on the current, while others fall from the trees, creating a three-dimensional dance of color and movement that captivates the eye and calms the mind. From this central point, we can see how the stream curves both ahead and behind us, disappearing into green shadows where the forest grows thicker. The water catches and reflects light in different ways as it moves, sometimes sparkling like scattered diamonds, other times flowing dark and smooth like liquid glass. The forest on both sides of the stream seems to lean inward, as if the trees are gathering to protect this waterway. Their branches create natural awnings over the water, and their roots form gentle terraces that step down to the stream's edge. Everything is arranged with such natural perfection that it's easy to imagine this place was designed by an artist with infinite patience and an eye for the subtlest beauty. Small islands of moss and stone interrupt the stream's flow in places, creating miniature landscapes that serve as resting spots for the floating petals. These tiny worlds within the larger world add scale and intimacy to the scene, reminding us that beauty can be found at every level, from the vast canopy above to the smallest detail at our feet. The air above the water shimmers slightly in the afternoon light, creating an ethereal quality that makes the entire scene feel dreamlike. This is the kind of place that exists at the boundary between reality and imagination, where the everyday world gives way to something more magical, more peaceful, more conducive to the kind of deep rest that our souls often crave. As we prepare to leave the bridge and continue our journey, we take one last look at the scene around us. The pink blossoms, the flowing water, the gentle interplay of light and shadow create a memory that will stay with us long after we've returned to the everyday world. This is what makes such places so precious. They offer us glimpses of peace that we can carry within us, returning to them in our minds whenever we need to remember what tranquility feels like. Quility feels like. The path leads us away from the bridge and deeper into what feels like the heart of this pink sanctuary. Here, the trees have grown for so long undisturbed that their branches have learned to dance together, creating natural sculptures that seem almost too perfect to be accidental. Some trunks have grown in gentle spirals, as if they've been slowly turning toward the light for decades, their bark marked with the subtle ridges that tell the story of each year's patient growth. In this deeper section, the cherry blossoms seem more abundant, as if the trees here have been saving their energy for this one magnificent display. The branches hang heavy with clusters of flowers, some so laden they bow toward the earth like dancers taking a graceful curtsy. When the breeze moves through these weighted branches, it creates a gentle swaying motion that's almost hypnotic, a slow rhythm that seems to match the beating of a resting heart. The ground beneath these ancient trees is different too. Decades of fallen petals have created a rich, soft layer that feels like walking on the world's most beautiful carpet. Our footsteps make almost no sound here, absorbed by this natural cushion that spring has been weaving year after year. The sensation is remarkably comforting, as if the earth itself is offering us a gentler way to move through the world. Shafts of light penetrate the canopy at different angles now, creating natural spotlights that illuminate individual trees or small clearings with theatrical precision. In one such clearing, we discover a circle of older trees whose trunks have grown in a rough ring, leaving an open space in the center where wildflowers have claimed the ground. This natural amphitheater feels sacred, a place where the forest seems to have created its own quiet sanctuary within the larger sanctuary. The wildflowers here are different from those we saw earlier. These have had more time to establish themselves, more space to spread. Clusters of pale blue forget-me-nots carpet portions of the clearing, their tiny faces turned upward toward the pink canopy above. White trilliums stand like small sentinels among the flowers, their three-petaled blooms perfectly suited to this understated elegance. A massive tree dominates one side of this clearing, its trunk so wide that several people holding hands could not encircle it. The bark is deeply grooved with age, creating patterns that speak of centuries weathered with dignity. This ancient giant has witnessed countless springs, has dropped millions of petals in its lifetime, has stood as a silent guardian while the forest around it changed and grew. Sitting against this tree's broad trunk, we become part of its story for a moment. The bark is surprisingly warm against our back, having absorbed the gentle heat of the filtered sunlight. From this position, looking up, we can see how the tree's branches spread in all directions, each one heavy with pink blossoms that seem to glow from within when the light catches them just right. The view from here reveals layers of the forest we hadn't noticed while walking. There's the immediate layer of wildflowers and fallen petals at ground level. Above that, the understory of younger trees and shrubs creates a middle layer of varying greens, punctuated by bursts of pink. Higher still, the main canopy spreads like a living ceiling, and beyond that, patches of blue sky peek through to remind us of the world above this pink paradise. Time moves differently in a place like this. Minutes could pass, or hours, and we might not notice the difference. The usual markers of time seem irrelevant here. There are no clocks, no schedules, no appointments waiting. There's only the eternal now of blossoms and birdsong, of light shifting slowly through the leaves, of petals continuing their endless dance from branch to ground to stream. A butterfly appears in the clearing. Its wings a delicate orange that complements the pink blossoms beautifully. It moves from flower to flower with purposeful grace, pausing at each bloom just long enough to gather what it needs before moving on. Watching its flight pattern, we're reminded of our own journey through this forest. Like the butterfly, we're here to gather something essential, some nectar of peace that we can carry with us when we eventually return to the world beyond these trees. The butterfly's presence attracts others. Soon, several are dancing through the clearing, their flights intersecting and separating in patterns too complex and beautiful to follow completely. They seem to understand something about this place that we're only beginning to grasp. They move with the same unhurried confidence as everything else here, never frantic, never rushed, always exactly where they need to be. As afternoon light begins to shift subtly toward evening, the quality of illumination in the forest changes again. The light becomes warmer, more golden, and when it filters through the pink blossoms, it creates colors that seem impossible to describe accurately. The petals take on an inner glow, as if each flower has become a tiny lantern designed to guide travelers through this peaceful realm. We rise from our resting place against the ancient tree and continue our journey, following a path that seems to know exactly where it wants to take us. The way forward curves gently between trees that grow closer together now, creating a more intimate corridor through the forest. The canopy overhead is so dense with blossoms that very little direct sunlight reaches us, yet the space is filled with a soft, diffused glow that seems to emanate from the flowers themselves. This tunnel-like passage through the forest feels almost ceremonial, as if we're walking down a natural aisle towards some important destination. The trees on either side lean slightly inward, their branches nearly touching overhead to form a living archway. Petals fall more frequently here, creating a constant gentle shower of pink that adds to the sense of moving through something sacred and special. The fragrance is more concentrated in this enclosed space, surrounding us completely with the sweet, clean scent of cherry blossoms. It's not overwhelming, but it's impossible to ignore. A constant reminder that we're breathing air perfumed by thousands of flowers. This natural aromatherapy seems to slow our breathing, relax our shoulders, and soften the expression on our face. Small details become more noticeable in this quiet corridor. The way moss has claimed the north side of each trunk, creating soft green patches that contrast beautifully with the dark bark. The delicate tracery of bare branches visible between the flowering ones, revealing the elegant architecture that supports all this beauty. The occasional glimpse of a bird's nest, perfectly integrated into the fork of a branch, a reminder that this forest is home to countless creatures who've learned to live in harmony with the seasonal cycles of bloom and rest. The path beneath our feet shows signs of others who have walked this way before us. Not many, but enough to wear the softest depression in the forest floor. A subtle indication that we're not the first to discover the peace this place offers. There's something comforting about following in the footsteps of other seekers, other souls who've needed exactly what this pink sanctuary provides. Ahead, the tunnel of trees begins to open up again, and we can see brighter light filtering through the canopy. The path is leading us towards something new, another chapter in our journey through this extraordinary place. As we walk toward this new opening, petals continue to fall around us like a benediction, a blessing from the trees that have shared their beauty so generously. The sense of anticipation is gentle but real. In a place like this, Every turn in the path promises new wonders, new arrangements of light and color, new opportunities to witness the artistry that happens when nature is left undisturbed, to create beauty in its own time, in its own perfect way. The opening reveals itself gradually, like a curtain being drawn back by invisible hands. What we discover beyond the tunnel of blossoms takes our breath away completely. Before us stretches a meadow within the forest, a natural clearing where the cherry trees have arranged themselves in a perfect circle, their branches reaching inward to create a living amphitheater of pink and green. The afternoon sun pours into this open space with renewed strength, no longer filtered through multiple layers of canopy. The light here is direct but gentle, warming our skin and illuminating every detail of this hidden sanctuary. The grass in the meadow is that particular shade of spring green that seems to vibrate with life, soft and inviting beneath our feet as we step from the petal-strewn path onto this natural stage. At the center of the meadow stands a single tree, different from all the others we've encountered. This one is older, more gnarled, its trunk twisted into fascinating shapes by decades of growth and weather. But what makes it truly remarkable is how it blooms. Instead of the soft pink we've grown accustomed to, this ancient sentinel displays flowers of the palest white. So pure they seem to capture and reflect every ray of sunlight that touches them. Walking toward this central tree feels like approaching something sacred. The white blossoms against the darker bark create a striking contrast, and the tree's presence seems to anchor the entire meadow, giving meaning and purpose to the circle of pink trees that surround it. This is clearly the elder here, the grandmother tree that has watched over this place for longer than we can imagine. The trunk of this ancient tree shows its age in the most beautiful way. Deep furrows in the bark create intricate patterns that tell stories of storms weathered and seasons endured. Patches of silver-green lichen decorate portions of the trunk like natural jewelry, adding texture and color to the already fascinating surface. Running our hands along these ridges and valleys, we can feel the tree's history beneath our fingertips. From the base of this elder tree, the view of the surrounding meadow and its guardian circle of cherry trees is breathtaking. Each pink tree seems positioned with perfect precision, creating a natural mandala of color and form. The spacing between them allows sunlight to reach the meadow floor while maintaining the sense of enclosure, of being held within something protective and nurturing. The grass here is dotted with wildflowers that seem to have been waiting all winter for this moment. Clusters of yellow buttercups catch the light and throw it back in tiny golden reflections. Purple clover sends up delicate spikes of color that attract the attention of bees, whose gentle buzzing adds another layer to the meadow's peaceful soundtrack. White daisies open their faces to the sun, their simple beauty a perfect complement to the more elaborate display of the surrounding trees. A wooden bench sits beneath the white blossom tree, so weathered and moss-covered it seems to have grown from the earth itself. The wood has aged to a soft silver grey that harmonizes perfectly with the tree's bark, and the seat has been worn smooth by countless visitors who've discovered this secret place. Sitting here feels like joining a long tradition of people who've needed exactly what this meadow offers. From this vantage point, we can observe how the light changes throughout the space as clouds drift across the sun. When a cloud passes overhead, the entire meadow takes on a softer quality, the colors becoming more muted and dreamy. Then, as the sun emerges again, everything brightens dramatically, the pink blossoms seeming to ignite within a fire, while the white flowers above us practically glow with reflected light. The wind moves differently here in the open space. Instead of the gentle whispers we heard in the deeper forest, the breeze here can express itself more freely. It sweeps across the meadow in visible waves, bending the grass and wildflowers in graceful patterns that ripple outward from wherever the wind touches down. When it reaches the circle of cherry trees, it sets all the branches dancing at once, creating a synchronized display of movement and color. Petals from the surrounding trees drift into the meadow constantly, carried by these playful breezes. They spiral down like snow, but warm and fragrant snow that lands softly on our shoulders and in our hair. Some settle among the wildflowers, adding pink accents to the natural garden at our feet. Others continue their journey, rolling and tumbling across the grass until they come to rest against the trunk of the ancient white tree. The contrast between the white blossoms above us and the pink ones surrounding the meadow creates an almost magical effect. It's as if we're sitting at the center of a natural kaleidoscope, with colors and patterns shifting subtly as our perspective changes. Looking up through the white flowers, the blue sky appears more vivid. Looking outward toward the pink circle, the entire world seems suffused with the warm glow of spring's most generous display. Small creatures have claimed this meadow as their own. A family of rabbits grazes peacefully near the far edge, their brown forms almost invisible among the tall grass until they move. They show no fear of our presence, continuing their quiet feast while keeping one eye on us with the calm alertness of animals who know they're safe here. Their presence adds to the sense that this place exists outside the usual rules, where predator and prey, human and nature, can coexist in perfect harmony. Birds move through the space with the same unhurried confidence. A robin lands on a low branch of the white tree, its red breast bright against the pale flowers. It regards us with curious dark eyes for a moment before breaking into song, its melody rising and falling in patterns that seem to echo the visual rhythms of the meadow itself. Other birds answer from the surrounding pink trees, creating a concert that feels both spontaneous and perfectly orchestrated. As we sit beneath the white tree, surrounded by this circle of pink guardians, time seems to slow even further. The usual urgency of life feels not just distant, but irrelevant. Here, in this natural cathedral, the only important thing is being present, breathing the flower-scented air, feeling the warmth of filtered sunlight on our skin, and allowing the peace of this place to seep into our bones. The bench beneath us has been positioned perfectly to take advantage of the meadow's changing moods. As the afternoon progresses, we can watch shadows lengthen and shift, see how different flowers open and close in response to the light, observe the constant gentle shower of petals that keeps the scene fresh and dynamic. Every moment brings subtle changes, yet the overall feeling of timeless tranquility never wavers. A small stream enters the meadow from one side, so quietly we might not notice it at first. It's narrower here than where we encountered it earlier, just a silver thread of water that winds between the bases of two pink trees before meandering across one corner of the meadow. The sound it makes is barely audible, a soft murmur that adds to rather than disturbs the peaceful atmosphere. Where the stream passes through the meadow, it has created its own small ecosystem. The grass grows more lush and green along its banks, and water-loving plants have established themselves in the consistently moist soil. Forget-me-nots cluster thickly here, their tiny blue faces creating a ribbon of color that follows the water's path. Wild iris pushes up through the grass in places, their sword-like leaves promising future blooms of purple and yellow. The stream pauses in its journey to form a small pool near the center of the meadow, close enough to our bench that we can hear the gentle sound of water flowing over the smooth stones that contain it. This pool reflects the white tree above like a natural mirror, doubling the beauty and creating the illusion of blossoms floating in the depths. Petals that fall into the water drift slowly across the surface before continuing downstream, carrying a piece of the meadow's beauty to whatever distant places the water eventually reaches. Fish move in the deeper parts of this pool, their forms creating ripples that break and reform the reflected image of the white tree. They seem as peaceful as everything else here, moving without urgency, perfectly adapted to this tranquil environment. Watching them glide through the reflected blossoms creates a sense of depth and mystery, as if we're looking into another world that exists parallel to this one. The combination of visual beauty, gentle sounds, and flower-scented air creates an atmosphere that seems designed specifically for restoration of the human spirit. This meadow offers something increasingly rare in our busy world, a place where we can simply be without agenda or purpose beyond the simple pleasure of existing in harmony with the natural world around us. As we rest here beneath the ancient white tree, surrounded by its circle of pink companions, we begin to understand why places like this feel so necessary, so healing. They remind us of rhythms older than civilization, of beauty that exists for its own sake rather than for any practical purpose. They offer us the chance to remember what it feels like to be part of something larger and more enduring than our individual concerns. The light continues its slow dance across the meadow, creating an ever-changing display of highlights and shadows. Sometimes the entire space glows with golden warmth. Other times, it takes on the cooler tones of filtered light. Each variation brings its own mood, its own particular beauty, proving that even in this perfect place, change and constancy can coexist in the most harmonious way. Our journey through the pink spring forest has brought us to this moment of perfect rest, this pause in the natural cathedral, where white and pink blossoms create a living temple dedicated to the simple but profound act of peaceful existence. Here, surrounded by beauty that asks nothing of us except our presence and appreciation, we discover what it truly means to find sanctuary in the natural world. The afternoon light begins its gentle transformation as we rest in this sacred meadow, and with it comes a subtle shift in the forest's personality. The sun, now lower in its arc across the sky, sends longer rays through the circle of cherry trees, creating cathedral columns of golden light that seem almost solid enough to touch. These shafts illuminate dancing motes of pollen and tiny fragments of petals, turning the air itself into a living, breathing canvas of movement and light. From our peaceful seat beneath the white tree, we can observe how the entire meadow responds to this changing illumination. The pink blossoms of the surrounding trees take on deeper, warmer tones, their pale rose petals now glowing with hints of coral and salmon. The effect is subtle but transformative, as if someone has gently adjusted the lighting in nature's own theatre to signal the approach of evening's first act. The white flowers above us seem to capture and concentrate this golden light, each blossom becoming a small lantern that casts the softest possible shadows on the grass below. These shadows dance and flicker as the breeze moves through the branches, creating patterns that shift and change with hypnotic regularity. It's impossible to watch this display without feeling our own internal rhythms beginning to synchronize with nature's gentle pulse. A new fragrance joins the familiar sweetness of cherry blossoms as the day progresses. It's the scent of warming earth, of grass releasing the essence of its growth into the evening air. This deeper, greener aroma mingles with the floral perfume to create something richer, more complex, like the difference between a single musical note and a full chord played by invisible hands. The small creatures of the meadow seem to sense the approaching transition from day toward evening. The rabbits have moved closer to the tree line, still grazing, but with a different quality of alertness, as if they're preparing for the subtle shift that comes with changing light. Birds call to each other across the space with new urgency, not alarm, but the busy communication of creatures organizing themselves for the evening ahead. We rise from our bench beneath the white tree, knowing somehow that our journey through this pink sanctuary isn't quite complete. The path that brought us to this meadow continues on the far side, barely visible where it disappears between two of the largest cherry trees in the circle. Something about the way the light falls there, creating a natural gateway framed by blossoms, suggests that more discoveries await beyond this perfect resting place. Walking across the meadow toward this continuation of our path, we notice how our footsteps release different scents from the crushed grass and wildflowers. Here, the sharp green smell of bruised clover. There, the honey sweetness of disturbed buttercups. Each step creates its own small moment of aromatic surprise, adding another layer to the sensory richness of this extraordinary place. The stream that winds through the meadow seems to whisper more urgently now, as if it too is responding to the subtle energy shift that comes with advancing afternoon. The water catches and reflects the changing light in new ways, sometimes flashing like scattered coins, other times flowing dark and smooth as polished obsidian. Petals continue to drift across its surface, but they seem to move with slightly more purpose now, as if they know their time floating in this perfect pool is limited. As we approach the gap between the trees where the path continues, we pause to look back at the meadow one final time. From this new angle, the scene takes on an almost mystical quality. The white tree at the center seems to glow from within, surrounded by its circle of pink guardians like some ancient monument to beauty itself. The entire space pulses gently with life and light, a living mandala that will continue its quiet existence long after we've returned to the world beyond these blossoming boundaries. The path leads us through the natural gateway, formed by two massive cherry trees whose branches have grown together overhead, creating an archway so perfect it seems deliberately crafted. As we pass beneath this living portal, petals shower down around us like a blessing, covering our shoulders and hair with the softest possible benediction from the trees that have shared their beauty so generously. Beyond the gateway, the forest takes on a different character once again. Here, the trees grow in more natural, random patterns, their spacing varied and organic, rather than the deliberate circle we've just left behind. This feels like returning to the wild heart of the forest after visiting its most sacred shrine. And there's something deeply satisfying about this progression from ordered beauty back to nature's own irregular rhythms. The canopy overhead is denser here, creating a more enclosed feeling that makes the space feel intimate and protective. The light that filters through is softer, more diffused, painting everything in gentle pastels that seem to shift and change with every small movement of the branches above. This is twilight light, even though the sun hasn't yet begun to set, the kind of illumination that exists in the deeper parts of forests, where day and night blend into something altogether different. Our footsteps on the petal-covered path create a rhythm that seems to match the forest's own heartbeat. The sound is muffled but musical, a gentle percussion that accompanies us as we wind between trees that grow more ancient with every step. Some of these giants show their age in magnificent ways, their trunks bearing the scars and stories of decades spent weathering storms and seasons in this protected place. Here, a tree whose bark has been sculpted by time into flowing patterns that resemble water frozen in motion. There, another whose trunk splits into multiple stems partway up, creating a natural candelabra effect that supports several separate crowns of pink blossoms. Each tree is an individual work of art shaped by the patient collaboration between genetics and environment. between intention and chance. The understory in this part of the forest is rich with ferns and moss, creating a lush carpet of green that provides the perfect backdrop for the pink display overhead. These shade-loving plants thrive in the filtered light, their various textures and shades of green creating a tapestry that changes subtly as we move through it. Maiden hair ferns spread their delicate fronds like nature's own lace, while cushions of moss provide soft spots of emerald that seem to glow with their own inner light. A fallen log across our path creates a natural bridge that we must navigate carefully. The wood has been claimed by moss and small flowering plants, transforming what might have been an obstacle into another element of beauty. Tiny white flowers bloom directly from the decomposing bark, proof of nature's endless ability to turn endings into new beginnings. Stepping over this living sculpture, we're reminded that even death in this forest becomes part of the continuing cycle of beauty. The air grows cooler as we move deeper into this more sheltered part of the forest, and with the coolness comes an intensification of the fragrances around us. The sweet scent of blossoms mingles with the earthier aromas of moss and decomposing leaves, creating a complex perfume that speaks of both growth and renewal. This is the smell of life in all its stages, from the fresh promise of new blooms to the rich wisdom of soil that has nurtured countless generations of plants. A clearing opens ahead of us, smaller than the meadow we've left behind, but no less magical in its own way. This space feels more wild, less formally arranged, as if we've stumbled upon a secret that the forest keeps for its own pleasure rather than for visitors. The trees here lean at various angles, some having grown in response to an ancient storm, others simply following their own mysterious logic as they reach toward available light. In the center of this wild clearing grows a cherry tree unlike any we've seen before. Its trunk is gnarled and twisted, speaking of great age and many seasons weathered, but its blossoms are extraordinary in their abundance. Every branch, every twig seems to carry more flowers than should be physically possible, creating a display so lavish it borders on the surreal. The tree appears to be celebrating something, throwing its entire energy into this one magnificent moment of bloom. Beneath this generous tree, the ground is thick with fallen petals, creating a pink carpet so deep our feet sink into it with each step. The sensation is remarkable, like walking on clouds made solid, and the fragrance that rises with each footfall is almost overwhelming in its sweetness. This tree has been shedding its bounty for days, perhaps weeks, creating its own small ecosystem of beauty and decay. Standing beneath this ancient celebrant, looking up through its impossible abundance of blossoms toward the patches of sky visible beyond, we feel connected to something much larger than ourselves. This tree has been perfecting the art of spring for longer than we can imagine, has survived droughts and floods, storms and calm seasons, always returning to this moment of extravagant beauty when conditions align perfectly. The light here is different again, filtered through so many layers of petals that it takes on an almost pink tinge, as if we're seeing the world through rose-colored glasses made of actual roses. This rosy illumination transforms everything it touches, making even ordinary objects seem magical and otherworldly. Our own hands, when we hold them up to examine this effect, appear to glow with the same gentle pink radiance. A stone bench sits at the edge of this wild clearing, so old and weathered, it seems to have been carved from the living rock of the earth itself. The stone is warm to the touch, having absorbed the gentle heat of the filtered sunlight throughout the day, and its surface is smooth from countless seasons of rain and wind. Sitting here provides the perfect vantage point to observe the magnificent tree and contemplate the wild beauty of this hidden sanctuary. From this seat, we can see how the clearing exists in its own microclimate, slightly warmer and more humid than the deeper forest around it. This has encouraged the growth of plants that might not thrive elsewhere, creating a unique ecosystem within the larger forest ecosystem. Delicate orchids bloom in the shade of fallen logs, their exotic beauty a surprise in this temperate woodland setting. The sound environment here is different too. The clearing acts as a natural amphitheater, catching and amplifying the gentle sounds of the forest. We can hear the distant murmur of the stream we encountered earlier, the rustle of small creatures moving through the underbrush, the occasional call of a bird hidden somewhere in the pink canopy above. These sounds blend together into a symphony so subtle we might not notice it consciously, but our bodies respond to its rhythm, our breathing slowing, our muscles relaxing. As we rest on the ancient stone bench, surrounded by the wild abundance of this secret clearing, we begin to understand that our journey through the pink spring forest has been more than just a walk through beautiful scenery. It has been a pilgrimage of sorts, a gradual progression from the everyday world into something approaching the sacred. Each step has taken us deeper, not just into the forest, but into a different way of being, a different relationship with time and beauty and peace. The tree above us continues its generous shower of petals, each one falling with the grace of a small prayer offered to the earth below. Some land on our shoulders and remain there like temporary decorations connecting us to this blooming world. Others settle around our feet, adding to the deep pink carpet that transforms the very ground into something soft and welcoming. Time continues its strange behavior in this place, seeming to slow and stretch until moments feel like hours and hours pass like moments. The usual urgency that drives our daily lives feels not just distant, but impossible here, as if it belongs to a different world entirely. In this clearing, under this ancient tree, there is only the eternal now of blossoms and birdsong, of warm stone and flower-scented air, of beauty offered freely to anyone willing to slow down enough to receive it. The afternoon light continues its slow dance across the clearing, creating an ever-changing display of highlights and shadows that keeps the scene fresh and dynamic, even as its essential character remains timelessly peaceful. Sometimes a shaft of sunlight illuminates a particular section of the tree, making its blossoms glow like stained glass. Other times, the light softens and diffuses, creating a dreamlike quality that makes the entire clearing seem to exist slightly outside normal reality. Our breathing has synchronized completely with the rhythm of this place now, deep and slow and peaceful. The flower-scented air seems to cleanse not just our lungs but our very thoughts, washing away the accumulated stress and worry of daily life and replacing it with something much simpler and more essential. This is the gift that places like this offer, the chance to remember who we are beneath all the roles and responsibilities, to reconnect with the part of ourselves that needs nothing more than beauty and peace and the simple pleasure of being alive in a world capable of such extraordinary grace. As we sit in perfect stillness beneath the flowering tree, surrounded by its generous offerings of beauty and fragrance, we realize that we have found exactly what we came seeking, even if we didn't know we were seeking it. This pink spring forest has offered us its greatest treasure, the opportunity to stop, to breathe, to remember that wonder still exists in the world for those willing to walk slowly enough to find it. The light grows softer now as afternoon begins its gentle transition toward evening, and with it comes a deepening of all the sensations that have made this forest so restorative. The temperature drops just enough to make each breath feel crisp and clean, while the humidity carries even more of the forest's fragrances on every gentle breeze that stirs the canopy above. We rise from the weathered stone bench, knowing somehow that our path through this pink sanctuary must continue. There's something about the way the light falls between the trees on the far side of the clearing that suggests our journey has one more chapter to unfold. The ancient flowering tree above us releases a final shower of petals as we prepare to leave, as if offering its blessing for whatever lies ahead. The path winds away from the wild clearing through trees that seem older still, their trunks massive and their branches reaching so high they disappear into the pink mist of blossoms above. These giants have stood here for generations, silent witnesses to countless springs, each one adding another ring to their patient hearts while the world changed around them. Their presence feels protective, almost parental, as if they're guiding us towards something important. Here, the forest floor tells stories written in fallen branches and moss-covered stones. Each step reveals new details that speak of the deep time these trees have been growing together. A hollow stump has become a garden for ferns and small wildflowers, its decay nurturing new life in the endless cycle that keeps this place vibrant and alive. Everywhere we look, endings have become beginnings. Death has transformed into beauty. The canopy overhead grows so dense with blossoms that very little direct sunlight penetrates to where we walk. Instead, we move through a world of pink-tinted twilight, where every surface seems to glow with its own gentle luminescence. This filtered light makes everything appear softer, more dreamlike, as if we've stepped into a watercolor painting where the edges of reality have been gently blurred. A gentle slope leads us higher into the forest, and with elevation comes a new perspective on the landscape we've been traveling through. Looking back through breaks in the trees, we can glimpse the meadow where we rested beneath the white tree, now seeming far below us, and somehow more magical for the distance. The entire forest spreads out like a pink ocean, waves of blossoms rolling away toward horizons we cannot see. The sound of water grows stronger as we climb, but this is different from the gentle stream we followed earlier. This water moves with more purpose, more energy, suggesting something grander ahead. The anticipation builds with each step as we follow the path upward through trees that seem to lean inward, creating a natural corridor that frames our approach to whatever awaits at the end of this gentle ascent. Rounding a curve in the path, we discover the source of the sound. Before us opens a small valley, where a waterfall cascades down a rock face covered in flowering vines, the water catching and scattering the pink-tinted light in thousands of tiny rainbows. The pool at the base of the falls is perfectly clear, its surface disturbed only by the gentle impact of falling water and the occasional petal that drifts down from the cherry trees growing along its edges. This hidden waterfall feels like the forest's greatest secret, a place so beautiful it seems almost too perfect to be real. The rocks that form the falls are dark and smooth, worn by countless years of flowing water, and they provide the perfect backdrop for the flowering vines that cascade down alongside the water. These vines bloom in clusters of small white flowers that seem to dance in the mist created by the falling water. The pool extends into a natural swimming hole, its depths shading from crystal clear at the edges to mysterious blue-green in the center. Cherry trees grow right to the water's edge, their branches reaching out over the surface so that petals fall constantly into the clear depths, drifting slowly downward like pink snow settling through liquid glass. The sight is so hypnotic, we find ourselves standing motionless, watching this underwater ballet of falling blossoms. A flat boulder beside the pool provides the perfect spot to sit and absorb the beauty of this hidden sanctuary. The stone is warm from the day's gentle heat, and its surface has been polished smooth by countless seasons of weather. From here, we can see how the waterfall feeds the pool, how the pool overflows into a stream that must eventually join the waterway we followed earlier. connecting this secret place to the rest of the forest's circulatory system. The mist from the waterfall creates its own microclimate around the pool, keeping the air consistently humid and cool. This has encouraged the growth of plants that thrive in such conditions. Delicate mosses carpet every available surface, their various shades of green creating a living tapestry that seems to glow in the diffused light. Tiny ferns push up through cracks in the rocks, their fronds unfurling in perfect spirals that echo the mathematical beauty found throughout nature. The sound of the waterfall is unlike anything else in the forest. It's constant, but never monotonous, varying in pitch and volume as the water hits different rocks and pools on its way down. Sometimes it whispers softly, other times it speaks more boldly, but always with the voice of something eternal and unchanging. This is the sound of time itself made audible, of patience carved in stone and celebrated in song. Birds have discovered this water source, and we watch as they arrive to drink and bathe in the shallow edges of the pool. They show no fear of our presence, so accustomed are they to the peaceful energy of this place. A small blue bird lands on a rock just inches from the water's edge, dips its beak delicately into the clear depths, then tilts its head back to let the water flow down its throat. The simple grace of this action feels like a blessing. Sitting beside this hidden waterfall, surrounded by the gentle shower of cherry blossoms and the constant music of falling water, we understand that we've reached something approaching the heart of this forest sanctuary. This isn't just a beautiful place, it's a source, a wellspring of the peace that flows through every path and clearing we've discovered on our journey. The water in the pool is so clear we can see every detail of the bottom, every stone and leaf and fallen petal that has settled there. Fish move through these depths with the same unhurried grace we've observed everywhere in this forest, their forms creating gentle ripples that catch and scatter light in ever-changing patterns. They seem as much a part of this peaceful ecosystem as the trees and flowers, perfectly adapted to a life of tranquil beauty. As we watch the continuous dance of falling petals and flowing water, we begin to understand something profound about the nature of beauty itself. It's not static, not something that can be captured and held, but rather something that must be constantly renewed, constantly created anew. The waterfall will flow long after these particular blossoms have fallen, but new flowers will replace them, and the dance will continue in endless variation on the same eternal theme. The late afternoon light filtering down through the canopy takes on an even warmer quality here beside the water. The mist from the falls catches this light and transforms it, creating an atmosphere that seems almost luminous with possibility. Everything appears to glow from within, as if the very air has been charged with some gentle form of electricity that makes colors more vivid and edges softer. A wooden bench has been placed at the perfect angle to view both the waterfall and the broader vista of the pool and surrounding trees. The wood is weathered to a soft silver grey that harmonizes perfectly with the rocks and moss, and someone long ago carved a simple heart into its back. This small symbol speaks of other visitors who have discovered this secret place, other souls who have been moved by its beauty to leave some mark of their presence. From this bench, we can observe how the entire area around the waterfall exists in perfect harmony. The trees provide just enough shade to keep the water cool, while allowing sufficient light for the flowering vines to thrive. The rocks offer perches for birds and platforms for moss and ferns, while the constant mist ensures that everything stays fresh and vibrant. It's an ecosystem in miniature, perfectly balanced and completely self-sustaining. The fragrance here is a complex blend of all the scents we've encountered on our journey, intensified by the humidity from the falls. Cherry blossoms provide the dominant note, but underneath we detect the green smell of moss and ferns, the clean scent of moving water, and something else indefinable that might simply be the smell of peace itself. Breathing this perfumed air feels like a form of natural aromatherapy, each inhalation bringing deeper relaxation. As the light continues to shift and change, the waterfall becomes an even more magical sight. Sometimes the falling water catches the light and appears to be made of liquid silver. Other times it seems almost transparent, a shimmer in the air that makes the rocks behind it appear to dance. The constant movement creates an ever-changing display that could hold our attention for hours without becoming repetitive or boring. Small details around the pool reward careful observation. Here, a cluster of water lilies has established itself in a quiet backwater, their white blooms floating serenely on the dark surface. There, a family of dragonflies patrol their territory above the water, their iridescent wings catching flashes of light as they dart and hover in patterns too quick for our eyes to follow completely. The bench where we sit feels like a meditation cushion placed in nature's own temple. The combination of visual beauty, soothing sounds, and flower-scented air creates conditions that seem designed specifically for the kind of deep rest that heals not just the body, but the soul. This is why we seek out places like this, why something in us recognizes the need for beauty and peace, and the simple pleasure of witnessing wonder. Time moves even more strangely here beside the waterfall, the constant flow of water creating a rhythm that seems to exist outside normal temporal boundaries. Minutes could pass, or hours, and we might not notice the difference. There's only the eternal now of falling water and drifting petals, of light playing on liquid surfaces, and the gentle music of a forest spring celebrating its own existence. The pool reflects not just the sky and surrounding trees, but somehow captures the very essence of this hidden sanctuary. Looking into its clear depths, we see not just water and stone and fallen blossoms, but a mirror of the peace we've discovered here. This reflection will stay with us long after we've left this place, an image we can return to in memory whenever we need to remember what tranquility looks like. A small rainbow appears and disappears in the mist from the waterfall, its colors soft and subtle but unmistakably present. It lasts only moments before the shifting water erases it. But then another forms in a slightly different location, as if the falls are constantly creating and releasing these small miracles for anyone patient enough to watch for them. The sight feels like a gift, a reminder that beauty often comes to those who simply remain still and observant. As we prepare to eventually continue our journey, we take one final look around this secret sanctuary. The waterfall, the pool, the flowering trees, the comfortable bench where we've rested. All of it combines to create a memory so vivid and peaceful that it will serve as a refuge for years to come. This is the gift that places like this offer. They become part of us, internal landscapes we can visit whenever the external world becomes too harsh or demanding. The path that brought us here continues beyond the waterfall, winding up through trees that promise new discoveries, new chapters in our journey through this pink spring forest. But for now, we remain beside the flowing water, breathing the flower-scented air, allowing the peace of this hidden sanctuary to settle into our bones like a blessing we'll carry with us always. The constant gentle shower of cherry blossoms continues, each petal a small prayer falling from the trees above, and we understand that we've been given something precious here. Not just beauty to observe, but peace to absorb. Not just a destination to visit, but a state of being to remember. This waterfall, this pool, this circle of flowering trees, they've shown us what it means to exist in perfect harmony, and that lesson will flow with us like water long after we've returned to the world beyond these blossoming boundaries. The sound of the waterfall becomes our companion as we finally rise from the weathered bench, knowing that our path through this sanctuary must eventually lead us back toward the world we left behind. But the forest seems reluctant to release us just yet, offering one final sequence of wonders as the afternoon light continues its slow transformation toward evening. Following the continuation of the path beyond the waterfall, we find ourselves walking through what feels like the forest's own private gallery, where each turn reveals another masterpiece of natural artistry. Here, a grove where the cherry trees have grown in perfect symmetry, their branches interweaving overhead to create a living cathedral vault. There, a gentle slope where wildflowers have claimed the spaces between the trees, painting the forest floor in delicate watercolors of purple, white, and yellow. The light filtering through the canopy takes on an increasingly golden quality as the sun moves lower in its arc across the sky. This warm illumination transforms the pink blossoms into something even more ethereal, each flower seeming to capture and hold the light like tiny lanterns designed to guide travelers through this peaceful realm. The entire forest glows with an inner radiance that speaks of day's gentle transition toward evening. Our footsteps on the petal-strewn path create a rhythm that has become as natural as breathing, a gentle percussion that harmonizes with the distant sound of the waterfall and the soft whisper of wind through the flowering branches above. This rhythm carries us forward through landscapes that seem too beautiful to be entirely real, yet ground us in the simple physical pleasure of walking on earth made soft by nature's own careful preparation. A wooden footbridge appears ahead, spanning a wider section of the stream that flows away from the hidden waterfall. The bridge is old and weathered, its handrails worn smooth by countless hands, its boards slightly warped by seasons of rain and sun. But it feels solid beneath our feet, a testament to the careful craftsmanship of whoever built this pathway through the forest's heart. From the center of the bridge, we can see how the stream winds away through the trees, carrying with it the fallen petals that have become small pink boats on their journey towards distant destinations. Some gather in quiet eddies where the water moves slowly, creating temporary gardens that will shift and change with the next small increase in current. Others travel swiftly through the deeper channels, their pink forms bright against the dark water. The view from this vantage point reveals the true scope of the forest we've been traveling through. Pink canopies stretch away in every direction, rolling like gentle hills made of blossoms rather than earth. The sight is breathtaking in its scope, reminding us that what we've experienced is just one small portion of a much larger sanctuary, a vast realm where spring has claimed dominion and peace reigns undisturbed. Continuing across the bridge, we enter a section of forest where the trees grow more sparsely, allowing more light to reach the ground and encouraging a richer understory of flowering shrubs and wildflowers. Azaleas bloom in brilliant clusters of pink and white, their large flowers complementing the smaller cherry blossoms above. Rhododendrons add deeper notes of purple and magenta, creating a symphony of color that seems orchestrated by an artist with infinite patience and perfect taste. The path here winds through these flowering shrubs like a river finding its way through a landscape of beauty. Each curve reveals new combinations of color and form, new arrangements of light and shadow that keep the eye engaged and the heart lifted. Sometimes the path opens into small clearings where butterflies dance among the flowers, their colorful wings adding movement and life to scenes already rich with natural artistry. A family of deer grazes peacefully in one such clearing, their brown forms moving with the fluid grace that characterizes all life in this sanctuary. They lift their heads as we approach, regarding us with calm curiosity rather than fear. For a moment, we share the same space in perfect harmony, two different species brought together by our mutual appreciation for this place of peace. Then they return to their feeding, accepting our presence as naturally as they accept the falling petals and the warm afternoon light. The fragrance in this section of forest is particularly rich, with the sweet scent of cherry blossoms now joined by the more complex aromatics of azaleas and rhododendrons. The combination creates a natural perfume so appealing that each breath feels like a small celebration, a reminder of the sensory gifts that nature offers to those who take time to notice them. Small birds move through the flowering shrubs with quick, purposeful movements, gathering nectar and small insects while contributing their own music to the forest's peaceful soundtrack. Their songs seem more varied here, more complex, as if the richer environment has inspired them to greater creativity. Some calls are liquid and musical, others sharp and bright, but all contribute to the sense that this forest is fully alive, vibrating with the energy of countless creatures living in harmony. A stone circle appears in a natural clearing ahead, its weathered granite markers arranged with obvious intention but unclear purpose. The stones are old, older than the trees around them, covered with lichens and moss that speak of decades spent in this peaceful place. They might mark something sacred or simply provide a focal point for contemplation. Their presence adds a note of mystery to the beauty around us, a reminder that some things in nature are meant to be wondered at rather than understood. Sitting on one of these ancient stones, we find ourselves at the center of a natural amphitheater where flowering trees and shrubs create terraced seating for an audience of flowers. The late afternoon light slants through this space at the perfect angle to illuminate everything with golden warmth, creating a scene so beautiful it seems designed for meditation, for the kind of deep reflection that comes naturally in places where beauty and peace converge. The warmth of the sun-heated stone beneath us contrasts pleasantly with the cool, flower-scented air, creating physical sensations that anchor us firmly in the present moment. This is one of the gifts that places like this offer. They make it impossible to be anywhere but here, impossible to think about anything but now. The constant gentle shower of petals, the play of light and shadow, the sweet fragrances carried on every breeze, all conspire to create a state of pure presence. From this stone seat in the circle's center, we can observe how the clearing exists in its own perfect microclimate. The trees provide just enough shade to keep the space comfortable, while allowing sufficient light for the flowering shrubs to thrive. A small spring bubbles up from the ground near the edge of the clearing, feeding a tiny stream that winds between the stones before disappearing into the forest beyond. This spring water is incredibly clear, so pure it seems to magnify the colorful pebbles on its bottom. Drinking from it feels like a small communion with the forest itself, the water carrying the taste of rain filtered through earth and rock, of minerals drawn from deep places where spring water begins its journey toward the light. The coolness is refreshing without being shocking, perfectly calibrated to human comfort. As we rest among these ancient stones, the forest continues its subtle transformation around us. The light grows warmer and more golden with each passing moment, creating new combinations of highlight and shadow that keep the scene dynamic and alive. Flowers that appeared pale pink in the brighter light of midday now glow with deeper, richer tones, while white blossoms take on the faintest suggestion of gold from the changing illumination. The butterflies in this clearing seem particularly attracted to the flowers growing near the spring, their colorful forms creating a constantly shifting display of movement and color against the more stable backdrop of stone and flowering shrub. Watching them move from bloom to bloom with such obvious purpose, yet apparent joy, feels like observing a dance choreographed by nature itself, each movement perfectly timed and placed. A gentle breeze picks up, setting all the flowers nodding and swaying in unison, releasing fresh waves of fragrance that surround us completely. This natural aromatherapy seems to slow our breathing, relax our muscles, and soften our thoughts until we exist in perfect harmony with the peaceful rhythm of this place. The usual urgency that drives our daily lives feels not just absent, but impossible here, replaced by something much more valuable: the simple pleasure of being alive in a world capable of such extraordinary beauty. Time continues its strange behavior in this stone circle, seeming to pause and stretch like honey in warm sunlight. Minutes might pass, or hours, but the only measure that matters is the gradual shift of light and shadow, the slow dance of petals falling from the trees above, the patient rhythm of our own breathing as it synchronizes with the forest's eternal pulse. As the afternoon progresses toward evening, we begin to sense that our journey through this pink spring forest is approaching its natural conclusion. The path that brought us to this circle of stones continues on the far side, but something about the quality of light there suggests it leads toward the forest's edge, toward the place where this sanctuary meets the everyday world we left behind, what feels like hours or perhaps days ago. But we're not quite ready to leave, not quite prepared to exchange this peace for the demands and distractions that wait beyond these blossoming boundaries. So we remain among the ancient stones, breathing the flower-scented air, watching the play of golden light through pink petals, allowing ourselves to be completely present in this moment of perfect tranquility. A small rabbit appears at the edge of the clearing, its brown form almost invisible until it moves. It regards us with the calm curiosity we've come to associate with all the creatures in this forest, showing no fear, only a gentle interest in these visitors to its peaceful domain. For several minutes, we share the clearing in comfortable silence, two different forms of life brought together by our mutual appreciation for this place of beauty and rest. The rabbit eventually returns to its feeding, moving slowly through the grass and wildflowers with the unhurried confidence of a creature that knows it's safe. Its presence adds another layer of life to the scene around us, another reminder that this forest is not just beautiful, but fully alive, populated by creatures that have learned to live in harmony with the cycles of growth and rest, bloom and renewal. As we prepare to eventually leave this stone circle and continue toward whatever lies ahead, we take one final look around at the scene that has provided such perfect rest and renewal. The flowering trees and shrubs, the ancient stones, the clear spring, the dancing butterflies all combine to create a memory so vivid and peaceful that it will serve as an internal refuge for years to come. This is what makes places like this so precious. They don't just provide beauty to observe, but peace to absorb. Not just destinations to visit, but states of being to remember. When the everyday world becomes too demanding or harsh, we'll be able to return here in memory, to sit again among these stones and breathe again this flower-scented air, to remember what it feels like to exist in perfect harmony with the natural world. The golden light continues to shift and change around us, creating an ever-evolving display that proves beauty is not static, but constantly renewed, constantly created fresh in each moment. The cherry blossoms above continue their gentle shower, each petal a small gift falling from the trees. And we understand that we've been given something extraordinary here. Not just a journey through a beautiful place, but a reminder of what peace feels like, what wonder looks like, what it means to be fully present in a world designed for joy. Rising from our stone seat among these ancient markers, we feel refreshed in ways that go deeper than physical rest, renewed by something that touches the soul itself. the forest has shared its greatest treasure with us, the gift of perfect presence, the blessing of beauty offered freely to anyone willing to slow down enough to receive it. This gift will travel with us like carried light, illuminating ordinary moments with the memory of this extraordinary peace. The path ahead winds between the flowering trees toward whatever final revelations await, but we move forward now with hearts full of gratitude and minds cleared by beauty, carrying within us the essence of this pink spring forest, like a blessing that will continue to unfold long after we've returned to the world beyond these blossoming boundaries, where ordinary life waits to be transformed by the peace we've discovered in this sanctuary of flowers and light. The path leads us gently downward now, winding through trees that seem to understand our approaching departure from their sanctuary. These final guardians of the forest stand with a different presence, their pink blossoms somehow more luminous in the golden afternoon light, as if they're offering their most beautiful farewell display for travelers who've shared their peaceful domain. The canopy overhead begins to thin gradually, allowing more direct sunlight to filter through and warm our shoulders as we walk. This increasing brightness doesn't feel harsh after our time in the forest's softer embrace. Instead, it feels like a gradual awakening, a gentle transition that prepares us for our eventual return to the world beyond these flowering boundaries without shocking our senses with sudden change. Our footsteps create a different rhythm now on the petal-strewn path, slightly quicker perhaps, as if our bodies instinctively know that this portion of our journey is drawing toward its close, yet there's no urgency in our movement, no sense of rushing toward an ending. The forest has taught us too well the value of savoring each moment, of allowing experiences to unfold at their own natural pace. A wooden gazebo appears through the trees ahead, its weathered structure so perfectly integrated into the forest that it seems to have grown from the earth itself rather than been built by human hands. Flowering vines have claimed its posts and railings, wrapping them in cascades of small white blooms that complement the cherry blossoms above. This structure serves as a perfect resting place for our final pause in this sanctuary of peace. The gazebo's wooden floor is worn smooth by countless visitors who've discovered this same path through the pink forest. Sitting on its built-in benches, we can look back through the trees toward the deeper forest we've traveled through, catching glimpses of the meadows and clearings that provided such perfect moments of rest and wonder. The entire journey spreads out behind us like a map drawn in memory, each location connected to specific sensations and moments of beauty. From this elevated position, the scope of the forest becomes even more apparent. Pink canopies stretch away in gentle waves, interrupted by the silver threads of streams and the darker green patches where other trees provide contrast to the cherry blossom's dominance. It's a landscape that speaks of balance, of different elements working together to create something more beautiful than any single component could achieve alone. A family of cardinals has made their home near this gazebo, their brilliant red forms a striking contrast against the soft pink background of the flowering trees. They move through the branches with confident familiarity, clearly long-term residents of this peaceful place. Their presence adds another layer of life to our final forest observations, another reminder that this sanctuary supports countless creatures who found their own perfect harmony with its rhythms. The male cardinal's song rings out clear and musical, a liquid melody that seems to capture something essential about the joy that permeates this place. His mate answers from a nearby branch, their duet creating a soundtrack for our final moments of forest peace. Other birds join in occasionally, adding their voices to what becomes a spontaneous concert, celebrating the beauty of this spring afternoon. The fragrance here carries hints of what lies beyond the forest's edge. Mingled with the familiar sweetness of cherry blossoms, we detect the green scent of meadow grass and the earthier aromas of fields warming in the afternoon sun. These subtle changes in the air's perfume signal the approaching transition from forest sanctuary to open countryside, preparing our senses for the gradual return to a different kind of beauty. Butterflies dance through the space around the gazebo with particular enthusiasm, their colourful wings catching flashes of sunlight as they move from flower to flower among the climbing vines. Some species we haven't seen deeper in the forest make their appearance here, drawn perhaps by the different light conditions or the variety of blooms that thrive in this transitional zone. Their presence feels like nature's own farewell performance, a final display of wonder before we leave this realm of constant surprises. The wooden railings of the gazebo are warm beneath our hands, heated by the stronger sunlight that reaches this more open location. The sensation is comforting, grounding us in physical reality, even as our minds drift through memories of the extraordinary journey we've just completed. These warm railings become anchors to the present moment, helping us fully appreciate this final pause in our forest sanctuary. Looking ahead, we can see where the path continues beyond a final grove of cherry trees, leading toward what appears to be an opening in the forest canopy. The light there is different, brighter and more direct, suggesting the edge of this pink paradise and the beginning of our transition back to the everyday world. But the forest seems determined to make this transition as gentle as possible, offering this gazebo as a decompression chamber between sanctuary and ordinary life. A gentle breeze stirs the vines around the gazebo, releasing fresh waves of fragrance and setting the small white flowers dancing against their green backdrop. This movement creates constantly shifting patterns of light and shadow across the wooden floor, a final display of the dynamic beauty that has characterized our entire journey. Even in stillness, this place remains alive with subtle motion and change. The sound environment here represents a perfect blend of forest peace and approaching openness. We can still hear the distant murmur of streams flowing through the deeper woods, the rustle of small creatures moving through the undergrowth, the gentle whisper of wind through countless blossoming branches. But underneath these familiar forest sounds, we detect new notes. The buzz of bees working in sunny meadows beyond the trees, the call of meadowlarks celebrating the open sky, the subtle shift in air movement that speaks of less enclosed spaces ahead. Time continues its strange behavior even here at the forest's edge, seeming to pause and stretch as if reluctant to release us from its peaceful embrace. The afternoon light grows ever more golden, painting everything with warmth and radiance that makes even ordinary objects appear magical. A spider's web strung between the gazebo's posts becomes a work of art when backlit by this luminous air, its delicate construction suddenly visible and beautiful beyond description. Small details around the gazebo reward careful observation during these final moments of forest peace. Here, a cluster of forget-me-nots has established itself in the shelter of the structure's foundation, their tiny blue faces turned upward toward the filtered light. There, a patch of moss has claimed a section of the wooden post, creating a soft green cushion that speaks of the patient work of time and moisture. Everything here tells stories of growth and adaptation, of life finding ways to thrive in harmony with both natural and human-made elements. The benches inside the gazebo bear the subtle marks of countless visitors who've paused here before us. The wood is worn smooth in places where hands have rested, and someone long ago carved a simple flower into one of the seats, a small artistic tribute to the beauty that surrounds this place. These human touches don't detract from the natural setting, but rather add to its sense of being a shared sanctuary, a place where many souls have found the same peace and renewal we've discovered. A pair of dragonflies patrol the air around the gazebo with military precision, their iridescent wings catching flashes of light as they dart and hover in patterns too quick for our eyes to follow completely. These aerial acrobats seem to embody the dynamic energy that flows through this entire forest, the constant movement and change that keeps even the most peaceful places alive and vibrant. Watching their flight paths creates a meditation in motion, a reminder that stillness and activity can coexist in perfect balance. The climbing vines that have claimed the gazebo's structure bloom in cascading waves of small white flowers, each cluster perfect in its simplicity. These blooms release their own subtle fragrance, different from the cherry blossoms but equally appealing, adding another layer to the complex perfume that surrounds us. The vines themselves have grown with artistic sensibility, wrapping around posts and railings in spirals that seem almost deliberately decorative. As we prepare to leave this final forest resting place, we take one last comprehensive look at the scene around us. The gazebo, with its flowering vines and warm wooden surfaces, the cherry trees creating their pink canopy overhead, the path leading both back into the forest's heart and forward toward the open world beyond. The butterflies and birds and dragonflies that have shared this space with us. All of it combines into a final image so perfect it will serve as the closing frame for our mental movie of this extraordinary journey. Rising from the gazebo's comfortable benches, we feel both reluctant to leave and ready to carry what we've discovered here back into our ordinary lives. The forest has given us more than beautiful sights and peaceful moments. It has reminded us of rhythms older than civilization, of beauty that exists for its own sake, of the possibility of finding sanctuary in a world that often seems designed for anything but peace. The path leads us forward between the final grove of cherry trees, their blossoms creating a natural archway for our departure from this pink paradise. These last guardians seem to understand their role as farewell escorts, their branches heavy with flowers that create one final shower of petals as we pass beneath them. Each falling petal feels like a blessing, a small gift to carry with us as we transition back to the world beyond these flowering boundaries. The light ahead grows brighter with each step, more direct and golden, promising open skies and different kinds of beauty beyond the forest's edge. But the transition remains gentle, gradual, allowing our eyes and spirits to adjust slowly to the approaching change. The forest's final gift to us is this careful preparation for our return to ordinary life. This gentle reminder that the peace we've found here can travel with us like carried light. A final turn in the path reveals the forest's edge ahead, where the last cherry trees stand like sentinels at the boundary between sanctuary and everyday world. Beyond them, we can see rolling meadows dotted with wildflowers, open sky stretching endlessly blue above, the promise of new adventures and different kinds of beauty. But we also carry with us now the memory of this pink spring forest, this sanctuary where time moves differently and peace lives in every breeze that stirs the blossoming branches overhead. The cherry blossoms continue their endless dance above us, falling like gentle rain that blesses our departure just as it blessed our arrival. Some petals catch in our hair and on our clothes, temporary decorations that will travel with us briefly into the world beyond, carrying the forest's fragrance and beauty into spaces that might never otherwise know such grace. Our journey through this pink spring forest draws toward its close, but the peace we've discovered here, the wonder we've witnessed, the moments of perfect tranquility we've experienced among these flowering trees will remain with us always. They become part of our internal landscape, places we can return to in memory whenever the everyday world becomes too harsh or demanding, whenever we need to remember what sanctuary feels like, what it means to exist in perfect harmony with beauty and peace. The final cherry trees part before us, like curtains opening on a new scene, revealing the meadows and open sky that wait beyond this sanctuary of blossoms and peace. But we step forward now, with hearts full of gratitude and minds cleared by beauty, carrying within us the essence of this extraordinary place like a blessing that will continue to unfold in our daily lives, transforming ordinary moments with the memory of this perfect peace, this gentle reminder that wonder still exists in the world for those willing to walk slowly enough to find it. As we emerge from beneath the final canopy of cherry blossoms, the world opens before us like a gentle exhale. The meadow that stretches ahead is painted in the softest greens, dotted with wildflowers that seem to echo the pink paradise we're leaving behind. Dandelions catch the golden afternoon light, their yellow faces turn skyward in simple celebration, while patches of white clover create natural stepping stones across the grass. The transition from forest to meadow feels seamless, as if the landscape itself has been designed to ease us back into the open world. The cherry trees don't end abruptly, but rather fade gradually, becoming scattered individuals standing like graceful sentinels in the grassland. Each isolated tree continues to drop its pink petals onto the green canvas below, creating natural art installations that shift and change with every breeze. The sky above us seems impossibly vast after our time beneath the sheltering canopy. Blue stretches endlessly in all directions, punctuated by white clouds that drift with the same unhurried pace we've learned to appreciate during our forest journey. These clouds cast moving shadows across the meadow, creating patterns of light and shade that roll across the landscape like gentle waves on a green sea. Our footsteps change rhythm again as we leave the soft carpet of fallen petals for the springy resistance of meadow grass. Each step releases the green scent of crushed stems and the honey sweetness of hidden flowers. The sensation is different from walking on the forest floor, more energetic perhaps, as if the open space is encouraging us to move with slightly more purpose, while still maintaining the peaceful cadence we've cultivated. A wooden fence runs along one edge of the meadow, its weathered posts and rails speaking of years spent marking boundaries between cultivated and wild spaces. Wild roses have claimed sections of this fence, their pink blooms creating a living connection between the cherry forest we've left and the open country we're entering. The roses release their own fragrance as we pass, adding another layer to the complex perfume carried on the afternoon breeze. Stone walls, old and moss-covered, wind through portions of the meadow like ancient rivers of grey granite. These walls were built by hands, long stilled, marking property lines, or perhaps simply providing somewhere for the surplus stones cleared from fields generations ago. Now they serve as highways for small creatures and foundations for the wildflowers that have claimed their sunny tops as perfect growing spaces. A red barn sits in the distance, its weathered sides and metal roof catching the afternoon light like a beacon of human presence in this pastoral landscape. Smoke rises from a chimney hidden behind a grove of maple trees, suggesting warmth and comfort and the simple pleasures of rural life. These signs of human habitation don't intrude on the natural beauty, but rather add to it, proof that people and landscape can coexist in harmony when approached with respect and understanding. The path we're following has become more defined now, worn by the passage of many feet over many seasons. It curves gently through the meadow, avoiding the wettest spots and following the natural contours of the land with the wisdom that comes from use rather than design. This is clearly a path that evolved rather than was planned, shaped by countless decisions to step this way rather than that, to follow the easiest route through the landscape. Butterflies dance through the meadow grass with even greater enthusiasm than we observed in the forest. Here, in the full sunlight, their colours appear more vivid, their movements more energetic. Monarchs with their orange and black wings patrol invisible territories, while smaller blues and whites dart between flowers in patterns too complex and joyful to follow completely. Their presence adds life and movement to every view, turning the meadow into a living canvas painted with wings. A small creek winds through the lower portions of the meadow, its water catching the light and throwing it back in scattered diamonds. This stream might be the same one we followed through the forest, now emerged into open country and following its own ancient path toward distant rivers and eventual seas. The water moves more quickly here, freed from the slower pace of the forest pools, chattering over stones and around bends with renewed energy. Wildflowers carpet sections of the meadow in arrangements too perfect to be accidental, yet too natural to be planned. Here, a patch of purple lupines stands tall and stately, their spikes of colour reaching toward the sky. There, a cluster of black-eyed Susans creates a splash of yellow so bright it seems to generate its own sunshine. Each grouping feels like a small garden planted by invisible hands with infinite patience and perfect taste. The grass beneath our feet varies in height and texture as we walk, creating a constantly changing carpet that keeps the simple act of walking interesting. Sometimes we move through areas where the grass grows short and dense, creating a lawn-like surface that springs back beneath our feet. Other times we wade through taller growth that brushes against our legs, releasing seeds and pollen that drift on the afternoon breeze like tiny messengers, carrying news of the meadow to distant places. A wooden bridge spans the creek where our path crosses it, its planks worn smooth by weather and use. The sound of our footsteps on the wood creates a hollow drumbeat that seems to announce our passage to the meadow's inhabitants. From the bridge's centre, we can look back toward the forest we've left, its pink canopy now appearing as a gentle rise of colour against the horizon, and forward toward whatever new landscapes await our continued journey. The fragrance here in the open meadow is different from what we experienced in the forest's embrace. The concentrated sweetness of cherry blossoms has given way to something greener, more complex, layered with the various scents of grasses and wildflowers, warmed earth and moving water. This meadow perfume speaks of growth and abundance, of life expressing itself under the full attention of sun and sky. Birds move through this open space with different energy than their forest cousins. Red-winged blackbirds perch on fence posts and tall grasses, their calls sharp and territorial. Meadowlarks send their liquid songs across the grassland from hidden perches, their voices carrying farther in the open air than any forest song could travel. Swallows dive and wheel overhead, their acrobatic flights creating temporary calligraphy against the blue sky. Our old oak tree stands alone in the middle distance, its massive trunk and spreading branches creating an island of shade in the sea of grass and flowers. This ancient giant must predate the meadow around it, standing as a survivor from some earlier forest that gave way to open land. Its presence adds gravitas to the pastoral scene, a reminder that even in landscapes shaped by human activity, nature maintains its own monuments to time and endurance. The late afternoon light continues its slow transformation, growing ever more golden as the sun moves lower in its arc across the sky. This warm illumination makes every blade of grass glow like spun gold, turns the white flowers to cream and honey, and sets the pink cherry blossoms that still drift on the breeze afire with inner light. The entire meadow seems to pulse gently with this golden radiance, creating an atmosphere that feels almost sacred in its beauty. A stone bench has been placed beneath the solitary oak, its granite surface worn smooth by seasons of weather and the touch of countless hands. Someone long ago recognized this spot as perfect for rest and contemplation, positioned to take advantage of the tree's shade while offering views across the entire meadow. Sitting here provides the ideal vantage point to observe how the landscape changes as shadows lengthen and light shifts toward evening. From this elevated position, beneath the oak's protective canopy, we can see the path continuing beyond the meadow toward rolling hills dotted with more trees and distant farmhouses. The route we're following clearly leads toward human habitation, toward the comfortable rhythms of rural life, where the natural world and human activity blend in patterns refined over generations. It's a welcoming prospect, promising warm fires and simple comforts after our afternoon of natural wonder. And so our gentle wandering through this pink spring sanctuary draws to its peaceful close. We've walked together beneath blossoms that drift like whispered prayers, beside streams that carry fallen petals toward distant dreams, through meadows where time itself seems to slow and breathe. This forest has shared its most precious gift with us, the reminder that wonder still blooms quietly in the world, waiting patiently for those willing to walk slowly enough to find it. May the peace we've discovered here travel with you like carried light, illuminating ordinary moments long after these cherry blossoms have faded into memory.